What if I told you that Ferrari stopped developing its current car in the middle of the championship just to focus on a machine that hasn't even touched the track yet? What if I told you that the key to its success could be steel instead of aluminum? Fred Vasseur has initiated a silent revolution at Ferrari, a transformation that is not measured in tenths of a second per lap, but in a complete redefinition of how the most iconic team in Formula One operates, thinks and competes. This metamorphosis begins with a decision that seems almost heretical by Maranello standards, to completely stop the development of the current car in the middle of the season. As of April 2025, the SF25 stopped evolving. No more aerodynamic updates were designed, no new evolution packages were planned for the remaining Grands Prix, the fight for the podium was not prioritized. Instead, all intellectual, financial and technical force was poured into Project 678, the future SF26. January 22, 2026 will be a date marked in red on the Ferrari calendar. Not because of a race or a title won, but because it will be the exact day that the SF26 will be assembled for the first time. Just 24 hours later, the car will make its first public appearance at Maranello, immediately followed by a shakedown at Fiorano. This tight-to-the-limit planning is not the result of improvisation, but rather a completely deliberate decision. The objective is to stretch every second of the development until the last possible moment before the car hits the track. But this bet, although strategically understandable, also represents a dangerous dance with chaos. In Formula One, assembling a car as advanced as the SF26 with so little room for internal testing involves a colossal logistical and technical risk. Each component must fit perfectly from the first try. There will be no room for integration errors, electrical failures, or structural inconsistencies. A delay of hours at a supplier, a minimal incompatibility in refrigeration systems, or a software failure can compromise the entire initial validation sequence. And despite this, Ferrari is confident. Not out of arrogance, but because every additional minute of design and simulation could translate into a tenth gained on the track. The strategy is best understood when analyzing test planning. Ferrari has divided its pre-season into two radically different phases. The first, focused on basic mechanical performance, and the second, aimed at the final configuration of the aerodynamic package. For Barcelona, from January 26th to 30th, the priority will not be speed or lap times. It will be reliability. An initial version of the SF26 will be presented, the so-called Spec A, designed to run as many laps as possible under different conditions with different fuel load levels, and test all the internal systems, especially the electronic integration of the new hybrid system. Vasseur was clear, it's not about chasing performance but about validating that everything works. But it is in Bahrain where the real challenge will begin. The Spec B will appear there, an evolved version of the car that will incorporate substantial modifications, especially in the aerodynamic part. New nose, redesigned wings, and a flat bottom adjusted to the first conclusions that Barcelona draws. The dates are already closed, February 11th to 13th and 18 to 20. In those days, the Scuderia will not only seek to squeeze performance, but also respond to the unknowns that arise from the final interpretation of the 2026 regulation, still surrounded by gray areas. This duality between validation and evolution is the key to Ferrari's schedule. They don't want to fall into the trap of other teams who try to do everything at the same time and end up not understanding which part of the car really works and which doesn't. By separating the development phases, Ferrari gives itself the opportunity to learn faster than its rivals, to correct with fresh data, to adapt solutions on the fly before the first Grand Prix. And yet, it is still a race against time. The margins are so tight, any mistake in Spec A can have cascading consequences. If reliability is not strong, there will not be enough time to ride in Bahrain with confidence. If data collection is insufficient, decisions for Spec B will be based on estimates, not certainties. And if that happens, the SF26 could debut in the still incomplete, still evolving first Grand Prix. In modern Formula One, where every gram matters, where every degree of temperature can make the difference between victory and abandonment, Ferrari has made a decision that defies all conventional logic, building its 2026 engine with cylinder heads made of steel. Not aluminum as the lightness manual dictates. Not titanium as strength gurus would suggest. Steel. A material that evokes robustness, yes, but also weight. And in the most demanding category of motorsports, that combination is usually synonymous with disaster. However, for Ferrari, this heart of steel could be the hidden gem of its most ambitious project. This choice was not a decision made lightly. For months, Maranello's engine department, in close collaboration with Austria-based engineering firm AVL, developed a seemingly impossible prototype. The challenge was twofold. On the one hand, guarantee that these steel heads could withstand 24 Grand Prix with only 4 combustion units per driver, and on the other, ensuring that this robustness was not accompanied by an insurmountable weight penalty. In the first trials, the results were worrying. But AVL introduced an unexpected solution, a special alloy that combines steel, copper, and ceramic, capable of withstanding temperatures and pressures unprecedented in the category. Why risk so much? Because steel, unlike aluminum, allows combustion pressure to be significantly increased without compromising the structural integrity of the engine. This translates into superior thermal efficiency and, even more relevant, much more constant power delivery. Internally, Ferrari estimates an approximate gain of 13 horsepower over its direct rivals, which in ideal conditions can represent between 2 and 3 tenths per lap. But that figure is just the tip of the iceberg. The key to the design is not only in the maximum power, but in the way in which it is delivered. Under the direction of Guido Di Paola, an engineer who has been rescued from his previous role to lead this new stage, Ferrari has completely redesigned the injection and ignition systems. The goal is to achieve a smooth, linear, predictable power curve. An engine that is not only fast in qualifying, but allows drivers to manage energy and consumption with surgical precision during long races. Meanwhile, its direct competitors have chosen different paths. Red Bull, Ford, and Mercedes, for example, would be exploring a gray area of the regulations that allows them to use more aggressive compression ratios under certain thermal conditions. That loophole could give them a 10 kilowatts advantage equivalent to 0.3 or 0.4 seconds per lap, but at the cost of greater thermal instability. Ferrari has rejected that approach. They prefer a more stable solution, which guarantees consistency even when weather conditions or tire degradation become unpredictable. Another crucial point is energy recovery. With the removal of the MGUH, the MGUK becomes the only means of recharging the battery, and that can only be achieved efficiently through regenerative braking. Here Ferrari has exceeded all expectations. In bench tests, they managed to recover more energy than expected, which translates into less need for cooling, more compact radiators, and a cleaner body design. In other words, the engine not only pushes hard, it also allows you to build a more aerodynamic car. This change has direct implications for pilots. A pushrod system allows a greater range of fine adjustments, both in rigidity and wheel geometry, which makes it easier to find an ideal balance between braking stability, corner entry aggressiveness, and exit traction. For Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, accustomed to nervous and difficult-to-predict cars in recent seasons, this transition could represent a qualitative leap in confidence and drivability. And that, throughout a career or a season, can make the difference between being in the fight for the title or settling for the second pack. But there are also risks. Radically changing the suspension philosophy means completely reconfiguring the dynamics of the car. Simulations must be rewritten, correlations with track data must be reconstructed, and any misconceptions can translate into months of uncertainty. Ferrari is betting that the foundation of its SF26 will be solid enough to absorb that learning process without compromising its performance in the first half of the championship. Furthermore, the impact of this project goes beyond the team itself. If Ferrari succeeds with this philosophy, the ripple effect could transform the way other teams structure their future seasons. It would change the focus of the championship, revalue the quiet development work in factories, and could unleash a new era of long-term thinking in the category. It would be, in a certain sense, the return of pure engineering over tactical reaction, the return of the integral project over reactive updating. And let's not forget the human factor. Drivers like Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton have had to accept a year without tangible results. They have put their trust in a concept, in a promise, in a project that has not yet seen the light of day. They do it because they believe. Because they know that if this car works, it can change everything. For Leclerc, it would be the first title with Ferrari. For Hamilton, it would be the perfect closing of a historic career, sealed with a feat that he could not even achieve with Mercedes, bringing Maranello back to the throne. This is the crossroads at which Ferrari finds itself. Redemption or ruin. Legacy or lesson. The SF26 is not just a new car. It is the physical representation of a radical idea. That to return to the top, you must first dare to empty your hands and build from scratch. What is at stake is not just one season. It is the relevance of Ferrari as a dominant force in the future of Formula One. If this project fails, it will be remembered as another chapter in the long list of missed opportunities. But if he triumphs, then the F1 world will have witnessed not a victory but a rebirth. One that could mark the beginning of a new red era. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.